Two of the civilizations of Central America were the Mayans and the Aztecs.
Mayans were farmers who cleared the dense rainforest to develop farming. They hunted for many animals such as deer, turkey, peccaries, tapirs, rabbits, and large rodents. Mayans farmed in the lowlands. Some crops they grew were squash, beans, chili peppers, cacao, maize, manioc, and amaranth. The Mayans mostly worshipped the nature gods such as the sun god, rain god, and corn god. They practiced a strong belief in the importance of astronomy and astrology, divination, human sacrifice, elaborate burial for royalty, and they worshipped in stone pyramid temples. They lived in individual political states that were linked through trade, political allies, and tribute obligations. Some states were independent and ruled by councils of nobles or allied with larger states. Nepotism was showed throughout the priesthood and ruling class. Human sacrifice was used to show the power of the ruler and the gods. Each state had a supreme military commander and was responsible for creating the military strategy and calling troops to battle. High priests would determine the dates for festivals, ceremonies, and foretold the events of the ruler. They were administrators of dependent cities and villages. They held administrative, judicial, and military authority over their towns, made sure that tribute was paid, and supplied troops. The Mayans were separated into different groups of nobles, commoners, serfs, and slaves. They believed that the status of a noble was to be passed down through family lineage. Nobles were those of high priests, rulers, government officials, etc. Commoners were those considered as farmers, laborers, and servants. Since girls were arranged marriage by their parents, they lived with their mothers until that day. They learned how to cook, spin yarn, weave, and clean house. Half the house was used for cooking and eating, the other half was for sleeping. Young men were taught to understand the Mayan hieroglyphs. They also learned how to farm and hunt. They grew many crops, but their main food ingredient was corn, which was eaten almost every day. Mayan cities had a central market where people of the lowlands could trade goods with people of the highlands.
The Aztecs' diets consisted of many crops such as chilies, tomatoes, limes, cashews, potatoes, sweet potatoes, peanuts, and chocolate. With all these rich crops, the Aztecs did not eat much meat. But when they did eat meat, they ate deer, rabbit, iguana, fish, and shrimp. They even ate insects such as grasshoppers and worms. The staple of the Aztecs was called maize, which is also known as corn. The Aztecs were a polytheistic civilization who believed in many gods who each had a different role. The Aztec religion was based on a belief in an unending struggle between the forces of good and evil throughout the universe. The Aztec political structure was called authoritarian. In this type of political structure, the monarch that claimed lineage to the gods got all the power, and alongside them were a bunch of lords and government officials. The social structure of the Aztecs included nobles and their families who owned land and were somewhat rich. There are also indentured laborers who worked for the noble families. Slaves were another type of laborer, and they were bought and sold at markets. However, many of the people in the Aztec society were commoners, who were usually farmers. These commoners would usually sell their goods at a market as well as being trading for goods. The men and boys were usually higher ranked than the women and the girls of the Aztec society. Girls, however, could inherit land and riches as well as learn to become a priestess, which could bring them higher in rank. The daily life of Aztecs consisted of different roles the men and women had in their households. The men would work and be the provider for their family, and the women would be the ones who would weave and cook, as well as take care of the household. The men would educate their sons until they became 10. Then they would go to a school that was in the temple and learn about religion as well as military training. The girls, on the other hand, were taught by their mothers the duties they have in their homes and would oftentimes not go to school even though they were able to attend.